Hello. In this video we are going to see how to make pasta, typically a veg or vegetable pasta. Often this kind of pasta in Italian restaurants you may have seen names like pasta cooked in olive oil with grilled vegetables or something similar kind of name. So we are going to build cook something similar in a much more authentic style, in a much more hygienic and healthier style at home. So what do you need in principle for cooking a pasta like this? Of course you need a non-stick pan, you need olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, you need boiling water to kind of boil pasta. You may see that I'm already boiling water next to the non-stick pan. Then you need some chopped vegetables. Like what do I have here is we have we have carrot, we have broccoli, we have some onion, some garlic and some bell peppers. So this is I have kept it in two different plates. So this was one variety, which is one type of vegetables which take more time to cook, and this other type of vegetable which is the for instance European zucchini, spring onions and baby tomato, right? And this takes a little bit less time to cook. So what we are going to do, we'll cook the hard vegetables first and we'll cook the soft vegetables subsequently. So what do we have here is we are going to add some olive oil in the cooking pan, and you need a decent amount of olive oil, so just keep that in mind, because the vegetables must be cooked in oil and of course with steam. So as you see, I have added some amount of oil. Let the oil get heated. Then in parallel I'm going to add some pasta here. And typically what I do is I typically add the same amount of pasta that I have as the same amount of vegetables that I have. So in these videos I'm also going to tell you some scientific aspects of cooking and how to make the cooking healthier. If you want, you can chop garlic. I typically don't do that. If you don't chop garlic and if you fry garlic as whole piece, it actually tastes much better than a chopped garlic. So this is one aspect to make things better. The other aspect of how to boil pasta in a way that it doesn't loosen up so much that eventually your pasta messes up here and there. So what you can do is make sure that the water has acquired enough heat, or it's close to the boiling point, and then only you add pasta. If you add pasta in the very beginning, what is going to happen is that pasta will start losing the starch, and then it will become much more stickier than it should be in principle. So as you see that I have got the onion and garlic getting fried here. In addition to that, what you also need is you need some good amount of black pepper. So typically once everything is done, you have to sprinkle black pepper on the top in the very end, and you really need some good amount of black pepper. So if you see I have at least 100 plus black pepper seeds or balls here, which I am going to grind later on and sprinkle on the top. So let it continue. Meanwhile, I will chop some green chili, which is also needed for the pasta. In case you want things to be a little bit spicy, but it all depends on you. If you don't want something to be spicy or something to be hot, you can skip that step. So just hang around and hold on with me. Okay, I have got that chopped separately. So as you may notice, the onion is getting fried. And now along with that, so we don't want to kind of fry onion completely, that will continue along with the rest of the vegetables. So now we can add some of the other vegetables. So we have got these things chopped. So this is broccoli, as you may notice. Then I've got carrot. And then we have got bell pepper, or what we also call Shimla mirch. Now one catch of boiling pasta is that once pasta has acquired some decent heat, make sure you add little bit of salt in the boiling water. That will make pasta soft, and this will get cooked quickly, and still it will not be sticky. So as once you approach, or once you are closer to the complete cooking of pasta, then you have to add some olive oil in the water as well, so that it doesn't stick at all. So you need to watch for the oil which you have in the pan. So for instance, I started with a little bit of oil, and I'm going to continuously watch for the amount of oil that I have. In principle, all the vegetables should get some amount of oil sticking to its surface, and that will give the vegetable a texture and the cooking feel like it has been grilled. And that gives a very different kind of taste to the pasta. Otherwise the pasta will taste like it has been boiled all at all, and that's not the intent of this particular recipe. So after some time we are going to basically cover this, so that then further on, once the surface is kind of more or less grilled, then the rest of the volume inside the vegetable should get cooked under the steam. As you see, in parallel, pasta is getting cooked. You can mix it, you can check the consistency. Right, the color will change. As soon as the pasta is cooked, you will see that the pasta color will convert from whatever you see now, pale yellow, to something which is off-white. Now to ensure that the vegetables also cook faster, you can add salt, the right amount of salt that you need for the overall pasta. Of course, you may have noticed that I did not add too much salt in the pasta which is getting boiled next door. Of course, the amount of salt that you add all depends on the taste that you have, whether you want less salt or more salt. Typically I keep it little bit less than what is called medium, so that the vegetables taste more than the salt. Now cooking these vegetables takes its own time, so I'm going to cover this with a lid. In addition to that, what you also need is, you need some vessel in which you can filter the water from pasta once it is fully cooked, and then you add little bit of olive oil on top of the raw pasta, the cooked dried pasta, so that it doesn't stick. So of course effectively the oil is balanced in a sense that you have some amount of oil added in the vegetable and some amount of oil added in the pasta, so eventually you will have a texture which will look like pasta cooked in olive oil, where the vegetables will have a grilled kind of a texture, so it all will taste like vegetables have been grilled separately and you have added that with the pasta which is cooked in olive oil. So hang around, it's going to take some time for cooking this, so for vegetables to get softened. Of course you don't need to kind of cook the vegetables completely. They should be soft enough that you can chew, but you just need to chew the vegetables. You don't need to kind of cook the vegetables completely like we make some kind of fried vegetables in our Indian cuisine, which you often consume with rice or chapati. So in this case you just need to get the vegetables soft enough so that you can chew that nicely. It gets mixed with pasta, but make sure it doesn't get a fried vegetable kind of a texture eventually. See, when you are choosing olive oil, you have to be careful with the source of olive oil. So these days most of the brands actually claim that they are selling extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. In principle the definition of extra virgin cold press is that you are not using any machinery or any automated system for extracting the oil out of olive seeds, but you have just simply cold pressed, like the way in the ancient days, if you know how the mustard seeds are cold pressed and the mustard oil is extracted, or even how the coconut is cold pressed and the coconut oil is extracted. In the same way the olive oil is cold pressed and the olive oil is extracted. So if you don't know how to judge whether something is really cold pressed and extra virgin olive oil, all you need to do is taste it. If the taste is similar to some kind of a refined olive oil, or I would say if the olive oil is tasteless in all sense, then it's not really an olive oil or not really a cold pressed olive oil. But if you get some kind of a taste, typically close to let's say purified butter, something similar to purified butter, and if it is not transparent in color, then you can rely or you can trust that olive oil. So a real extra virgin cold pressed olive oil is going to have some good taste, very similar to purified butter, and also it has a color, typically a pale yellow or close to a pale yellow kind of a color, and also a bit viscous in nature. So refined oil would be much more lighter, will look like lighter or diluted, or it would have a lower viscosity. Viscosity is a measure of density of oil in a given volume. But if it is extra virgin or pure olive oil, it's going to be more viscous than a typical refined oil. So these are the ways you can find whether something is really I would say authentic or not. The other aspect of cooking in olive oil is if you heat, the olive oil has very low smoke point. What is the smoke point is, the temperature at which the oil will get converted to smoke, or you will start seeing some kind of smoke coming out of the oil. So typically mustard oil, which is often preferred for cooking in the conventional or in the ancient style, because mustard oil has a much higher smoke point. So if you cook in mustard oil, it's not going to get converted to something else, because you have heated up at very high temperatures. But olive oil has a much lower smoke point, and hence you should be very careful that before the oil is completely heated up, you add vegetables. So if I explain you scientifically, then if you add vegetables, or you add the content that you are going to cook in the oil, that overall content will have some kind of a higher thermal mass, and that's going to reduce the overall temperature across the oil. Right? So oil will never acquire that kind of very high temperature so that it gets converted to what is typically seen or visible as a smoke. So that ensures that the oil remains intact, and you get all qualities or the benefits of that particular oil intact in the food. So keep in mind that add vegetables immediately after adding olive oil. You don't need to kind of smoke the olive oil like often people do for other oils, or mustard oil, that which is often believed that if you smoke the mustard oil, then the smell will go away and then you add vegetables. You should not do that in case of olive oil. So the moment you add olive oil, immediately you add your vegetables and then fry. This way olive oil is going to keep its properties intact. So throughout the videos, as I'm not going to pause or edit the videos, I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep telling you several scientific aspects of cooking. So after some time, I'm going to add the other vegetables which are a bit softer in nature. I did not add the other vegetables to begin with, because the harder vegetables will take its own time, and by the time they become softer, the softer vegetables may get completely cooked, and that will mess up with the whole cooking, and will also not give you a very nice texture and feel for eating. So in parallel, you can see what happened to our pasta. There is another way of cooking pasta. You can cook pasta in pressure cooker. But what typically happens is, if you cook this in pressure cooker, it will become much more stickier. Whereas if you cook this in in an open pan, it's in an open pan, it's getting cooked at a lower temperature than the temperature at which it is going to be cooked inside a pressure cooker, and hence the pasta remains intact. It doesn't loosen up, it doesn't lose starch, as well as it doesn't become sticky. Now you may be thinking why cooking pasta in a pressure cooker will become much more stickier, and why it will get cooked at a higher temperature. So the scientific explanation is following, that when you cook something inside a pressure cooker, because of the high pressure, the boiling point of the material inside goes up, and the base material that we are using to cook the stuff inside pressure cooker is water. So if you have applied pressure, then the boiling point of water will go up. Under atmospheric pressure condition, the boiling point will be 100 degrees C, which all of you know, and if you apply pressure, then it will go up. So typically a pasta or anything inside pressure cooker gets cooked faster, because everything is heated up too much, or allowed to be heated up at much higher temperature. But what happens is that something like soft like pasta, if you heat it up at much higher temperature, is going to lose its shape, its texture. It will lose the starch from the surface, and because of that, it will get much more stickier. So that's why we are cooking this in open pan. In case somebody has told you that you should cook in pressure cooker because it will be much faster, of course it's true, but then you're not going to get a nice sticky less or sticky free kind of a pasta. So as we see that it's getting cooked nicely, it's becoming soft. We'll keep it this way, and after some time I'm going to stop the flame. Now as you see, it's getting cooked. And if you remember, I started with less amount of oil, but now you see that oil is getting soaked completely, into the vegetables. I can give you a closer look. So if you see, vegetables are getting cooked and they are still intact. They are yet not so now we are ready to add the other vegetables, and we'll add the tomato in the very end. Why? Because tomato takes not more than 2 or 3 minutes to get cooked, and the intent is not to cook tomato completely. We'll just heat it up or cook it to a point where the tomato becomes softer but not cooked. So we have added the European zucchini as well as spring onion. As you see that the oil that we added in the beginning was quite sufficient. All the vegetables have completely soaked the oil to its surface, and you still see an oily texture all across the vegetables. So that shows that you don't need to add further oil into the vegetables. And of course some amount of oil is going to be added to pasta, so that will ensure that you have sufficient amount of oil, but it's still not too high that it becomes unhealthier for your health. Right, we have covered it. We are going to cook this in steam as well. In parallel, we will check the pasta. It's more or less ready. As you see that the color has changed from what it was in the beginning, pale yellow, to something which is now off-white. So I'll also add the green chili here. And we'll keep our black pepper ready to be sprinkled in the end. Will be done in next I would say 10 to 15 minutes. Now the catch of this black pepper is that it spills out when you are trying to press it. So you have to be little soft to begin with, and gradually increase the pressure and get everything grinded to a uniform, to a consistent size, and which goes very nicely when you sprinkle on the top of the pasta when the pasta is cooked. So it takes some time to kind of grind the black pepper. Okay, so it's done. Now meanwhile we'll check what's happening with our vegetables. They are in good shape. 5 more minutes and they will be more or less cooked. Now let's check pasta. So pasta is now fully cooked. Now you may notice from the length of video till this point that how much time it took for cooking pasta while keeping the vessel at low flame. So I'm going to filter the out. I'm going to take the water out and we'll show you how this looks like. So we have got this, it's ready. As you see the consistency, and if you wait for 30 seconds, just mix it a bit so that it doesn't stick. Still has some water in it which will get filtered out. I have used a vessel which has a net underneath, so the water will go down. And then I'll add some amount of olive oil to this pasta so that it doesn't stick. So mix it. Now another tip here is that if you feel that it's going to take some more time for your vegetables to get cooked, you can keep the water intact in the vessel and the flame on, and so that will will keep steaming up the pasta, and because of the steam, because of the steam, the pasta will keep the temperature intact, and hence the pasta will not stick. But that is, if you feel that it's going to take more time for the vegetables to get cooked, that's why in the beginning I kept the flame on, but then I thought that okay, it's not needed at all, so I switched it off. So in this case, our vegetables are going to be fully cooked in next 3-4 minutes, and hence we don't need to kind of worry about pasta. But of course you can do one thing, that you can keep stirring it to ensure that the pasta doesn't stick. So meanwhile, I can tell you a few more things about the vegetables. As you may have noticed, we have, broccoli. Broccoli is very good for, it's in fact anti-cancer, called to be anti-cancer vegetable. It's very good for health. It has a lot of antioxidants. Carrot is very good for health. It purifies blood. It's good for eyes. Then we have a couple of other vegetables like spring onion and for instance, garlic is very good for digestion. And you may have noticed that we are not, cooking at very high temperature. We are cooking, using both steam as well as oil. So things are more or less cooked at a temperature between 100 degrees C and 150 degrees C, and that ensures that the vegetable don't lose its, the quality, like the kind of vitamins and the protein and the antioxidants which are there. They often die out or form some other kind of complexes if you heat things at very high temperature. But if you keep the temperature in an optimum range, of course you can check on internet what protein and which vitamin changes its chemical formulation at what temperature. But typically if you cook things under steam or under these kind of temperature conditions, they are not going to change the typical property of what really is there inside the vegetables. Right, so as you see, the vegetables have shrunk down in terms of the volume of overall vegetable that we had at the beginning. That's a sign that vegetables are more or less cooked. If you see, the broccoli has reduced to a smaller volume. Most of the other vegetables have reduced to a smaller volume. If you see carrot is completely cooked. We can check broccoli. Broccoli is also quite nicely cooked. We are more or less ready. We'll just wait for 2 more minutes, and that 2 more minutes are for tomato. What we'll do is just sprinkle tomato. These are baby tomato, or you also call it cherry tomato. If you go to supermarket and ask for cherry tomato, the shopkeeper in many stores will still not recognize what you're talking about. But if you call it baby tomato, they will figure out what you're looking for. So that's why I told you both, you can call it cherry tomato, which is actually the typical name in Europe as well as in US. But in Indian supermarkets, you still may need to call sometimes a baby tomato. So basically, 2 more minutes for cooking the cherry tomato and 3 more minutes for the pasta, and then in the end we'll sprinkle bell pepper. We'll sprinkle the black pepper, and we'll be done. So I'm parallelly mixing the pasta to ensure that it doesn't stick. So meanwhile, I will also tell you what you can serve with pasta. So typically in restaurants you may have seen that often some kind of garlic bread is served. So you can prepare this kind of garlic bread at home as well. All you need to do is if you grind garlic and then roast bread with that garlic in butter, you'll actually get a taste of garlic bread. You can roast that. You can roast that on top of a non-stick pan, or you can use some kind of a grill for doing that. I often prefer to serve pasta with what is called half fry or a poach. So pasta served with poach. Typically, one serving will go with poach made of 2 eggs and 2 or 3 breads. That's a very nice, combination of food, all Italian in nature. So pasta, poach, which is typically half fried egg. So egg which is just dropped in the pan, which is cooked from one side. We will see that in some other video. And a garlic bread, or any roasted bread, a bread which is typically roasted in butter. And along with that, you can serve red wine. Red wine goes very well with pasta. In fact, if you see European cooking, typically something which is rich in oil is often served with red wine. The reason is red wine is full of antioxidants, and that kind of kills if any toxins are built post dinner because of the oil or some of these things which are in principle present in the food, right? So of course, depending on to whom you are serving and how you are serving, you can decide. So you can serve with half fry, you can serve with garlic bread, you can also serve with some red wine. So if you see, this has become softer, right? We'll just wait for 1 more minute. We don't want tomato lose its texture. We want the tomato to remain raw, more or less raw, and we want this to keep its, we want the tomato to have its texture intact. So we'll wait for 1 more minute and then we are ready to add pasta. Now, since there is no pause in the video, the time it takes for various things can be calculated from the time or the length of the video at that particular instance. So therefore I am not telling you what takes what amount of time. Often in cookery shows you may have seen that people often say, okay, you cook this for this many minutes and cook that for that many minutes, and usually it doesn't work. And that's why you may have often experienced that whatever is typically shown in cookery shows is not easily replicated in our house kitchens. And that's why the idea here is that I show you precisely the way it should be cooked, or it is cooked even in the finest restaurants, so that you can precisely replicate in your kitchens. No editing at all, right? So we are very much ready for our last step. Yes, we are there, completely done with everything. You remember how much oil we added in the beginning. I did not add any amount of oil further. And now we are ready to add pasta. Now you add precisely the same amount of pasta as we have vegetables. And then you mix this slowly. So we'll just wait for 1 more minute and so just mix this for 1 more minute so that the vegetables are completely mixed with pasta. now we are ready for the last step. As I said, so I am just sprinkling the black pepper which I had grinded in the beginning. As I told you that you need good amount of black pepper, typically depending on how much you can resist, 50 to 100 seeds. The kind of volume that I have cooked, for which close to 70 seeds would be sufficient. So with this you mix it and it's ready to be served. So here we go. As you see, how does it look like? And this is all set to be served. Thank you very much for watching.